Hello guys, yeah, we're back for the third week already. This one's going to be a light, slightly more relaxed, video compared to what I've released so far. So this is my journey as an Aston Villa fan. So, where can I begin then? Well, suppose I can begin when I was born, really. So, that is when it was set by essentially my dad that I was going to be an Aston Villa fan and nothing else. And, football wasn't something that interested me at the start, when I was really young and growing up. I would follow it here and there, I'd watch some of the matches with my dad on TV. But I attended the semi-final of the UEFA Cup, I think it was back in 2009, against CSK in Moscow. That was one of my first ever Villa games, if I remember correctly. During that game, of course, we lost and got knocked out of the UEFA Cup, which is now known as the Europa League, essentially. So yeah, that happened. So then fast forward a couple of years, then I'd still be hearing things here and there about Villa, my dad would be buying me the kits every now and again, even when I was a child. So then we got to, I think, our relegation season, where, Aston Villa, we went into the Championship, and it wasn't very good. At the time, again, I didn't understand what was going on too much because I still didn't follow football as closely as my dad did. So, yeah, we got relegated. I still remember, I think, the day that we got relegated, where my dad, he was very, disappointed. It was a disappointing season, in fact. I think we only got, 21 or 19 points, something like that. And yeah, we got sent down to the Championship. So what happened following this then? This is what I started getting into, going to the matches more. So it would be me, my dad's friend, and his son. We'd attend numerous games essentially. So we had an on and off period with Villa where I remember we had some horrific results in the Championship where we lost, I think, to Middlesbrough 3-0. We lost to Peterborough 3-0 as well. I remember at that game in question, where we were walking outside of the stadium, I think it was it 2 or 3-0 down already, and Peterborough had just scored another goal, and we could hear the fans going crazy inside the stadium. And I thought, wow, this is absolutely disgraceful. And it was so embarrassing at the time because, once a great club, you're losing to these, types of teams. It is quite embarrassing. So there was a point at which we were watching the matches, and it all changed, and this was probably one of the earliest best feelings that I had as a Villa fan, and that was Aston Villa versus Sheffield United 3-3. And this match, Aston Villa, absolutely dreadful, by the way, for about 70 minutes of the game. We were 3-0 down to Sheffield United, and then, what do you know it, the team comes back to 3-3, and I remember at the time, at 3-0 down, everybody around us was leaving the stadium, and it was me, my dad's mate, and his son, and we were just watching this game, and all of a sudden we make it 3-3, and we're just going absolutely crazy. Had to be at about 11 or 12 years old, if I remember correctly, just giving it to the Sheffield United fans. This was one of my first games in the luckiest stand for me, which is the North Stand. Here's a little superstition that I developed with my friends and my dad, and that is every game that I have attended, we have won in the North Stand. But we'll get back to that a bit later. So then, where do we go from there? Villa 3, Sheffield United 3. I attended a few more games that season, including Norwich, I think towards the end of the season, where they'd already been promoted, but then we made it into the playoffs. So again, I hadn't really built that interest around football and Aston Villa around then. So my dad was actually the one who went to the playoff final and saw us come back up into the Premier League. And oh my goodness, that first Premier League season, what a roller coaster that was. I remember this was the time where I was getting into it a bit more. And I remember on that last day against West Ham when Grealish made it 1-0, oh my goodness, I couldn't believe it. We got out on the skin of our teeth. I think we needed something stupid like 12 points in order to even think about safety. So we did truly pull off the great escape in the end. And then we get to the season after that, which is the new season during COVID. At this point, the team, absolutely insane, by the way. We played Liverpool and won 7-2. I still remember that match because I went to school, I think it was the next day, and me and my mate were giving our other mate essentially the big un, like, you know, who's Liverpool, who's that, you know, because it was so unheard of that, you know, we could beat a team 7-2 and essentially manhandle them like that. But what starts the season, that was, I think we had like 4 wins from 5 games, so that was absolutely brilliant. So we finished that season, again, very strong. I think we finished 11th, purely because Grealish did get injured in the middle of the season, which means our performances also tailed off as a result. So yeah, actually going back to that weekend, it was a very weird weekend, that was, because I remember, was it Leicester? I think, who did Leicester beat? I think Leicester beat Man City like 5-2, which was crazy, and then of course Spurs beat Manchester United 6-1. Again, another insane result. Lockdown football was a very interesting one. So then we start the following season after that. I don't remember too much from this one, so just bear with me a little bit. So this was the season where Dean Smith got sacked and we brought in Steven Gerrard. And again, we're returning to the North Stand. First game back after lockdown, Aston Villa versus Everton. Probably the hottest match in the world. You felt like you were sitting right next to the sun. I remember the sun beaming onto us, and the only drinks them having was lukewarm Sprite that wasn't even refrigerated. Oh my goodness, that was disgusting. But yeah, if I remember correctly, it's a game that we won, I think, was it 2-1? When Diaz scored a goal, I remember. And so did, oh, you know, I can't remember that one. But yeah, we won that. So then, we keep... No, sorry. Yeah, so we did the Everton game. Gerrard won it. It's when our new signing... Actually, no, I've missed the season here, haven't I? Yes, so the Gerrard season was when Dean Smith got sacked. And we had that Brighton game. Yes, 2-0. I went to that one as well. In the North Stand, of course. We won that one 2-0. Then we had Crystal Palace. And again, that season, pretty good, you know. Gerrard was doing a pretty decent job. That January, oh my goodness. So, I was essentially telling my dad, you know, we've got to book this United game. It was the United, was it Aston Villa 2, United 2? The game where we signed Coutinho and Digne. And oh my goodness, it was like having a superstar at Villa Park for the first time. Absolutely insane, by the way. So yeah, we finished this season, again, pretty strong. I attended a couple more games. I think I attended Aston Villa 1, Brentford 1 as well. Again, there's a lot of games up here. It's all going to get a bit muddled up. So yeah, we do all that then. And then it gets to the summer. And this, again, is going to be some of the weirdest transfer business that we've ever had as a club. We get to it, and this is off the back of selling Grealish and signing Bailey, Ings and Buendia. We sign Boubacar Kamara before the transfer window even opens. One of the best free signings of all time, I have to say. We also signed Diego Carlos from Sevilla. 2 signings out of nowhere, improving the defensive aspect of the team. You get the sense that we're building something special here. So yeah, we head into this new season with a nice little refresh, essentially, you know. We're ready. But some questionable stuff goes wrong, you know. You had Gerrard come in. Results start slipping, you know. You respect for the bloke. Amazing England international as well. But results start slipping. We get to Aston Villa versus Fulham. They beat us 3-0. Douglas Luiz gets sent off for a red card. And boom, Gerrard gets sacked. And, you know, some of the stuff that he was saying in his last few months at the club were crazy, like the Chelsea game, where it was like, Chelsea should be coming to Villa Park and wiping the floor with us. I mean, what sort of mentality is that? That is just really bad, isn't it? You know, as a manager, you cannot be saying that. You've got to instill the belief into the players. He was also burying players like Mings, who'd been at the club for a very long time. You know, stripped him of the captaincy. which in hindsight now it was actually a really good move. It gave us probably one of the best Villa captains in recent times, which was John McGinn. So yeah, we get to this point then. Gerrard gets sacked, and who are they going to bring in to replace? They're going to bring in Unai Emery. At the time, this guy then, who was at Villarreal, took them to a Champions League semi-final with that team. He's won the Europa League with Sevilla 3 years in a row, Villarreal as well. And we're taking a gamble because from our perception of the media, what they gave, his last two big jobs at Arsenal and PSG, he apparently flopped in. I don't think he did flop at the PSG job. He did a great job there. He won a league title, so he's in fantastically. But yeah, we bring in Unai Emery. Bear in mind, at the time, I thought this season we couldn't really accomplish much given the circumstances. We were already quite deep in the table. We were 17th, just fighting above relegation. But this madman, he comes in and he absolutely changes the philosophy at the club. Suddenly, you got people preparing for matches like loads. You know, the tactical analysis, the amount of work going on behind the scenes, and you could see what was going on the pitch because it was just intelligent. It was very, very smart what we were doing. I remember the first game of Emery's tenure, which was versus United. I didn't go to this one, it was my dad that went to it. And this was a team fighting on pure guts that wanted to win. We had that Leon Bailey goal at the start, and we scored a direct free kick via Luca Dean. And it had been ages since we scored that previous direct free kick, in fact. So yeah, we beat United 3-1. From that then, in the rest of the season, we get from result after result after result, and we go on an 8-game winning streak. We are beating Champions League fighting Newcastle 3-0 at Villa Park, and what an absolutely stellar performance that was, you know, because I think Newcastle fully expected us to just sit back so they can press us, but the fast counter-attacks and just everything was absolutely brilliant. So what a game that was. So, we now move on from the 8-game winning streak to the final home game versus Brighton and Hove Albion. If we win this game, we're going to secure European football at Villa Park. Wow. I don't even know how you can even say a sentence like that considering we were 17th when the bloke picked us up. But yeah, pre-match, we were waiting for the coaches to arrive, all the flares and everything, absolutely beautiful. Wow, it was only conference in it. If you know that reference, I respect it. But yeah, we won that 2-1. And we get into a European campaign with Unai Emery, and that is just absolutely beautiful. So now then, let's talk about that summer window. Again, insane summer, we sign Moussa Diaby. A really pacey winger. I remember watching this guy live and thinking, oh my goodness, what a player. We also signed Nicolo Zaniolo on loan, which was a bit of a weird one at the time. Then you've also got Pau Torres, one of the best line-breaking defensive passes I think I've ever had the pleasure of watching, which is good. And one of my personal favourites, Yuri Tielemans, who was signed as a midfield option. Funnily enough, apparently there was some fake media thing at the start of his career where they were like he was disappointed about the game time that he was getting. But we all know how false that was. So yeah, we get to the start of 22-23. So then, 22-23, was it 23-24 or 22-23? No, 23-24. Newcastle 5, Aston Villa 1. After having such a dramatic summer window where we're thinking, oh, we're on top now, we get smashed 5-1. And you know what? That wasn't essentially our fault. You know, Mings sustained a horrific ACL injury at that time, and of course you could tell it impacted the squad mentally. But from that, we got one of the most oddest bits of punditry from Sir Alex Ferguson, of course, where he goes, that weekend Aston Villa was the best technical team that he watched play. And at the time, everyone I remember, just who was a Villa fan, was thinking, what? How can you make that assumption after just getting beat 5-1? But you can never doubt a manager who's seen it all, and he was right. So from Newcastle 5-1 against some dodgy form here and there. But then we get to December in a very peculiar week where you've got to play Man City and you've got to play Arsenal. I wasn't even meant to go to this Man City game. It was a last minute thing because my dad's mate couldn't come, so we had a spare ticket available and I just went to it. And there was something in the air that night, and it was belief. We truly believed we could give this, treble winning, super terrifying team a good run for their money, Pep Guardiola team, and we absolutely dominated them. I couldn't believe a performance like this. Every player wanted to win the ball. That Leon Bailey performance was one of the best things I've ever seen in my life. Oh my goodness. And when he hit that deflected goal to make it 1-0, the roof came off Villa Park, and oh my, what a game that was. So, to this day, one of my favourite games that I've attended. So how do you follow on from a performance like that then, when you've got to play Arsenal midweek? Well, the genius does it again. He pulls off one of the best passing routines from our goalkeeper all the way to Leon Bailey on the wing, pulls it back from McGinn, goal, 1-0 against Arsenal. And at this point, you're just thinking, what sort of team am I watching now? A team that has let us down and, given us some moments to be proud of. They're performing like a whole, well-oiled machine. And it was absolutely insane to see that. So yeah, we go the rest of the game. Arsenal had a goal disallowed, if I remember correctly, towards the end, and we win that 1-0. We beat Manchester City and Arsenal in the same week at Villa Park. And suddenly, that becomes your fortress, I think it was 13th home win in a row, or 16th home win in a row, something crazy like that. So yeah, we're getting to the tail end of this season then. Champions League's on the mind, because we're third, I think we were fourth at that point, and we're just thinking we just got to ride this out, get to the Champions League, and we're all sorted. Conference League campaign, let's talk about that for a bit then. I attended most of the group stage matches. It was Jurinsky, where McGinn scored a late win, an absolutely brilliant match by the way. Also attended, was it Jurinsky? AZ Alkmaar, that's the one. What a match that was. That got me infatuated with the whole ultra scheme of things, the way that they chant in unison, choreographed chanting and everything, which does sound pretty cool by the way. Personally, I prefer it in the UK, when we do reaction-based chanting, when the game's swinging in our favour, and then we start talking about things, I really prefer that. So yeah, we get to, I think, the tail end of that Conference League campaign. Unfortunately, a long season has happened. We've had our injuries, and essentially our legginess is showing now. So we unfortunately bow out of the Conference League. I remember watching the Lille performance beforehand, where we won on penalties. Absolutely unreal experience. And then Olympiacos unfortunately just got us. We were knackered, man. You could tell. And then we get to Spurs versus Man City. I watched this game in its entirety live on the TV, and I was begging that, Spurs would lose that match. Towards the end of the match, he had Son 1v1 with Edison, and him absolutely, just scuffing it and not scoring. And, we got into the Champions League. I started playing the theme all the time, listening to it on the bus here and there to university. What a bloody experience that was, man. There was so much hype around the club at this point. So yeah, that summer comes, and again, it's a nice summer. We do sign some cracking players again. We signed Amadou Onana in midfield. What a tower of a beast that guy is, by the way. So yeah, Amadou Onana did a bit of dealings in order to deal with PSR, which again, I wasn't really familiar with the football rules until recently on how the finances have to work. So yeah, let's talk about, was it 24? Is it 24 or 25? No, it's 23-24 then. The first Champions League campaign. No. It is 24-25. Yes, 24-25, the first Champions League campaign. This was a period where me and Dad were just essentially, and my mate as well, essentially just attending Champions League games just because of how expensive they were, £85 per ticket is not cheap to go to. So let's go to Aston Villa versus Bayern Munich. Right then, what a match this was, by the way. This was, you know, the big one, you know, back in the Champions League. You're going to watch this and, you know, you want the team to go for it. It's such a loud atmosphere. Bayern Ultras just out in full voice doing their chants. And it was the Pau Torres disallowed goal that went in. The roof came off of Villa Park, and oh my gosh, what a sight it was to behold. Atmosphere absolutely beautiful. Pre-match, by the way, that tifo just sent shivers down my spine. Hearing the Champions League entrance music sending shivers down my spine. And then John Duran lobs the goalkeeper to make it 1-0 on the night. And then we just hold on at the end. Emi Martinez super double save, which was absolutely unbelievable. The ref blows the whistle and everyone goes crazy. Where do you go after that then? I didn't go to Aston Villa versus Bologna, but then it was who was the ones after Aston Villa versus Juventus? 1-1, pretty no, it was 0-0. Sorry, pretty boring game. That Morgan Rogers goal at the end should have been allowed though. I remember that and being absolutely baffled at the decision, watching it over and over just when I got home that night. So yeah, we finish Aston Villa versus Juventus and we just carry on going then. And then we get to January where we started the FA Cup campaign at the same time. Aston Villa versus West Ham 150th anniversary super game. This was a period where me and both my mates went to that game. My dad couldn't go, unfortunately, because he had work, but oh my, what a game that was also. Really good, making it the 150th game, you know. Unreal planning by the club to do that. But yeah, we get to Aston Villa versus Celtic. We go 2-0 up in literally 5 minutes. We're just thinking we're going to absolutely smash these. And I still remember the bloke's name till today, Adam Ida. He makes it 2-2. And we're going into half time and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we're actually going to bottle this. Because bear in mind, we need to win this game in order to get into the top 8 of the Champions League. So then, of course, Watkins, he scores. Ramsey lays it off to him, beautiful. And then Morgan Rogers scores for his hat-trick. And we get to full time. I'm the only one there who's got his phone whipped out in the local area of where I was sitting in the north stand. And I've got the score just beaming on my phone, being a little bit of an attention grabber, let's be honest. I was getting everyone around me to look at my phone. And we're waiting for the Barcelona versus Benfica match to end, which was, I think, 5-4 in the end, which was kind of crazy in itself. And oh my gosh, we'd made it to the top 8 of the Champions League. Bear in mind, every match that I've said till now has been in the north stand. So you're facing Man City and Arsenal in the same week. You're facing Bayern Munich, Juventus, Celtic, and all these super teams, and I'm not seeing them lose any of these matches. What an amazing achievement that was. I didn't go to the Olympiacos match or any of the matches that we lost last season either. So then it starts to become a bit more reoccurring in my mind that maybe this curse is, well, not curse, like maybe this superstition is that there's actually something in this. So yeah, we finished the Celtic game, and then from that, Club Brugge first knockout game, round of 16. I remember watching this on the bus on the way back from university. The first leg, Leon Bailey puts it in early. Wow. Club Brugge equalise, of course, but then we score 2 more. We win the first leg. Then you go to the Club Brugge game. This was just one of the best, like, you know, club displays I've ever seen, by the way. Everyone had their scarves up, different coloured scarves as well. You had claret, you had blue, you had white scarves as well. And all together it's just looking absolutely beautiful, by the way. Everyone's up for it, we're ready to do this. And this was the period when we signed 2 absolute superstars for the club. And they were Marcus Rashford and Marco Asensio. I couldn't believe I was watching these 2 players live, you know, absolutely world class. And they both did the job and we got through Club Brugge. Who's next then? Is big bad PSG, who at the time and still are one of the best teams in the world. So we go to the Parc des Princes. I remember watching this game after a Wednesday clinic at university. I got home in the evening, nervous as anything for this game. So it starts and we strike first blood. Tielemans to Morgan Rogers, 1-0 to Aston Villa on the night. You're in dreamland for about 5 minutes, but then of course Doué scores the equaliser, and we'd eat 2 more goals with a really unfortunate late goal, which made it 3-1 to PSG, which in hindsight it was a step too far at that point. So then you get to the following week. I remember this was right before my second year exams, and I was super ill that day, but your belief is high. You're thinking, you know, maybe we can do this. If we get an early goal, this is it, you know, we can come back. So we get to the second leg of Aston Villa vs PSG, and we go 2-0 down. And at this point, I'm sitting with my dad on my left, my mate on my right, thinking, we've got no chance right now, you know, this isn't good. But, and I say but, Tielemans scores just before half time, make it 2-1. And this is something that I found out pretty recently, and that was during half time of this match. Emery, the madman, is saying to the players, are you having fun? And they're probably thinking, you know, we're losing this 2-1. And he goes, because they definitely aren't. And he's talking about PSG there. And you're just like, okay, if this is the mentality that he's talking in the dressing room. They come out in the second half. Start of the half, Dembele goes through, offside, disallowed goal. Then John McGinn's on the ball, running through the entire best midfield in the world, mind you, Vitinha and I don't know, João Neves, I think. So he's running through that, scores an absolute bang from outside the box, 2-2. Okay, it's changed now, the atmosphere. Everyone's off their seats, the whole atmosphere is lifted. Marcus Rashford takes on the whole defence, shoots it. Donnarumma won the best saves of the match, by the way. So then we get a corner from that. Right. It gets passed short. Well, he sends the ball in. One of the defenders from PSG sends it out. Cash reclaims. Pass it to Rashford. Rashford around one. Around the other. Pass it to Konza. 3-2. I'm telling you, this 10 to 15, well, 25 minute period after half time, I was yelling. I had a really bad sore throat, mind you, because I was ill. So I felt like I was going to faint at some point during this. Every single chance. Rashford into Tielemans, header, saved by Donnarumma. Pau Torres through to Marco Asensio. Marco Asensio one-on-one with Donnarumma. Saved. Last chance of the game. Matty Cash sends it in. Ian Matson on the volley. Blocked by Nuno Mendes. No, it wasn't Nuno Mendes. It was the defender, Pacho. Yeah, William Pacho. And you leave with a very bittersweet feeling, thinking, you know, we beat the best team in the world, but we had the chance. We could have done it and we could have gone all the way. But unfortunately, it just wasn't meant to be at that point. So yeah, you get into the end of that season, and we need Champions League essentially to be compliant with UEFA's rules and avoid having a really bad summer. So yeah, we get to United vs Villa, last game of the season. I remember so clearly, I was watching with my dad, and Martinez gets a red card, and you're down to 10 men, and you've got to beat United at a ground that we've never won at. Well, we rarely win at. I think the last one we had was a Courtney Horse header, but I digress. After that then, Morgan Rogers claims a loose ball from, I don't remember the goalkeeper's name, but he claims a loose ball, puts it in 1-0 against United with 10 men, around 15 minutes left on the clock. But it doesn't count, because the keeper blew the whistle instead of not blowing it and letting the ball go in so VAR can review it. Since the ref blew the whistle, VAR can't intervene in that decision. And I'm just thinking at that point, this is so corrupt and crazy. Because, of course, you get into denial, don't you? So then that summer happened, and it was a very weird transfer window, mostly because we couldn't sign anyone. So yeah, we get through that summer. We'd retain the core of our squad, which is good, which is exactly what you do. You want the togetherness at the start of the season. And I was thinking at the time, wow, we're going to do so good. We've retained the squad. We've made a few additions here and there. So yeah, we get to the start of 25-26. 5 games, 0 wins. We haven't scored any goals. We get to the Brentford Carabao Cup match, where Harvey Elliott scores the first goal of the campaign. Very strange situation with that player, by the way. But then we lose, so we're at the Carabao Cup. But then something profound happens. Aston Villa versus Bologna. At this point, I hadn't seen us win this season. I was in the North Stand. We're going to add superstition here a bit. John McGinn scores to make it 1-0. And we ride out the rest of the game, and it's 1-0. And I'm always going to make this point because I love to brag about it. But I watched that match, and that kick-started one of the best winning runs I've ever seen, by the way. We lost to Liverpool in the middle, but then after that you had Feyenoord win. Yeah, I'm trying to remember all of them now. But slowly and slowly, you're having a 15-16 winning game run. In that, you had Arsenal versus Villa. Again, I was ill on that day. I think we were just getting to the winter period. The weather was changing a little bit. But Buendia puts it in the 94th minute, and you're just going absolutely crazy. In that same run, beating Chelsea away, coming back to win it 2-1. Being Man United at home, a team that we rarely beat anyway. 2-0, 2 Morgan Rogers banging goals. And, you know, you beat City as well in that run. And you're just thinking, you know, we're doing a really good job here. Funnily enough, the team that we lost to in this whole run was Go Ahead Eagles somehow. I don't know. That was their big game, essentially, for Go Ahead Eagles. So we get into the new year now. It's looking a bit ropey. We're still winning all our Europa League things, how we need to. But we lose to Arsenal 4-1, and this kickstarts a downturn in form. Because we win the following game against Nottingham Forest. Then we got Spurs away, and this is where you lose Kamara. So that's one of your midfield gone. And Arno was injured anyway, I think, at that point, so he was gone. Then you get to Aston Villa versus Newcastle United. Away. Again, a ground that we never really seem to win at. But we win somehow. We win 2-0. Buendia with an absolute rocket of a goal, by the way. And then Ollie Watkins to score the second towards the end of the game. Absolutely brilliant. But we lose Tielemans, so that's 2 of your big midfielders gone. And then we suffer a really nasty downturn in form. We lose to Everton at home, who we always seem to beat, let's be honest. Then we lose to 10-man Brentford. Like, it was a bit embarrassing, isn't it? And then, yeah, just results here and there, not good. Losing to Fulham. And then we lose McGinn. We lose the heart and soul, the engine of the team. And somehow, still through this, we're winning Europa League games, you know. We beat Lille over 2 legs again. We beat Bologna over 2 legs again. And then we get to Nottingham Forest versus Villa. And it's the first leg. And they win 1-0. And you're thinking at that point, this team ain't winning anything ever. You know, that's it. It's all over. We get to pre-Nottingham Forest, which is Aston Villa versus Spurs. We play a weakened team, and we get what we deserve, and we lose 2-1. Still a chance we could have sent them down, but we chose not to. And you know what? That is one of the best decisions we have ever made. Because we get to Aston Villa versus Nottingham Forest. This game, the best atmosphere I've ever experienced at the ground. And again, we're in the beloved North Stand. I remember at this point, they just stopped the music about 15 minutes before kickoff. Everyone stopped waving their flag, essentially. You know, because everyone was giving a flag in the stadium. And we're kickstarting our own atmosphere here. We're singing all the chants and everything. The whole stadium's on it. Nottingham Forest, you can't even hear them, by the way. The fans were shell shocked because they weren't expecting to see this. But we knew what was coming. Shout out the guy who, I think it was the end of that first leg where he was like, I'm not, you know, we're not scared. You know, it's only 1-0 when they come to Villa Park, they're done. So yeah, we get to that point then. And then, oh my goodness, Buendia skims past, you know, Anderson, £120 million player, makes him look average, squares it to Watkins, 1-0. Second half comes, Pau Torres down in the box, 2-0. And then we get to the last 2 goals of the game. John McGinn putting up to 3-0 and 4-0 respectively. Wow. What a game, lads. What a bloody game that was. That I was chanting that much, putting that much energy into that game that I was done for about 2 days, by the way. I couldn't go gym the next day. And I went to the gym the day after, but I was so weak just because I was projecting my voice that much. My voice was gone for 3-4 days and it was 100% worth it. I remember going to work that Sunday. I was trying to sort out people's glasses and The amount of squealing that was just coming out of my voice was absolutely crazy. So yeah, we're at High again. We're going to Istanbul. We're going to the final. But we're not going, are we? Because we don't have the means to go. Like, as in, we wouldn't be able to get a ticket to go to the final. Plus, we wouldn't really think that we'd be in the position to go to the final. So yeah, we're at the high of the season. We've what do you call it? Been in a title race in December. That was a really good experience. I loved seeing all the graphics, by Sky that mentioning the title race has a new challenger, and it was us, because that's something that you wouldn't expect. So yeah, we get to Friday, the Friday before the Europa League final. My dad calls me after my gym session. I'm shopping at Tesco's. I pick up the phone. Something really unexpected. I've got 2 tickets to the final. At that point, I'm thinking, wow. But I don't think we should go, it's going to be really expensive getting flights this time. It would be better if we just save money. But my dad, the legend that he is, just kept persevering and persevering. It led to me going to my mom while she was working and essentially telling her, like, oh, we've got the tickets. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Would really love to go. And my mom's an absolute, hero for this. She essentially goes to me and Dad, you can go. So the feeling that day was absolutely insane. It felt like a fever dream. We're going to Istanbul to watch Aston Villa in a European final. That is some bucket list stuff if I've ever heard of it, lads. Ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, we get to that point, book up all the flight tickets. Book a flight for the morning before the match is taking place. Absolutely insane, by the way. One of the most spontaneous things I think me and my dad have ever done together. So yeah, we get to Wednesday then. The hype's been building for me and my dad. We get on that plane, we go to Istanbul. What a weird trip that was, meeting all these people. The plane ride before we landed, everyone fully chanting Villa songs, and the flight attendants encouraging it and everything, saying good luck to us, and what a lovely experience that was, guys. So we get to Istanbul, we get into the Besiktas Arena Stadium, and I see 2 of the best goals I've ever seen live. You see Yuri Tielemans volley it into the goal. You see Buendia do an absolute curler, putting it into the top corner, and then Morgan Rogers cementing that 3-0 win. And at that point, lads, I was just shocked, man. I was tired because we were just screaming and shouting. I actually got clocked in the face when we were celebrating our first goal. Some guy was like, we were trying to put our arms around each other, so my dad was there. The guy who was next to him kind of just like bang straight into the jaw. So yeah, that wasn't fun, but you know what? We got the win, and that's all that matters. So yeah, we come back from Istanbul, and then that's it, isn't it? I've watched them win Europa League, and it was just such an emotional experience, man. I felt like crying at the end of the final. I didn't. I thought I would. I think if it was a lot closer, I probably would. Like if we scored a last-minute winner or something like that, that would probably set me over the edge. But yeah, we get to, watch all these celebrations, look at the parade. The parade was probably really good. We couldn't go, of course, because we landed on the ended up landing on the Thursday after the final. So yeah, then we get to the weirdest end of the season, because I'm hoping for Spurs to get relegated, because why not? I didn't really think we were going to win because everyone's drunk. But a drunk Aston Villa beat Pep Guardiola's Man City in his last game in charge. Weirder things have happened, of course. So yeah, I mentioned a lot about the North Stand, but one thing I didn't talk about, unfortunately, my, I'd say 12-year streak did come to an end during that. And that was Aston Villa versus Newcastle in the FA Cup, where they beat us 3-1 after... Who got sent off again in that match? I actually don't remember. Who got sent off? Was it Bezo? No, someone got sent off. I think it was Bezo. He got sent off. And then, that's it. You're left with 10 men. You're not going to win that then, are you? But it just seems oddly poetic, considering this was the season where the beloved North Stand essentially is closing. It's going, the old North Stand is. So to lose in the last ever season of sitting there, you know what, it was okay. It was very poetic and signified that we were saying goodbye to the North Stand. So yeah, wrapping it up now, what a phenomenal, few years I think we've all had as Villa fans, and of course we've got another season to look forward to now, where we're in the Champions League. Exciting pre-season, of course, going on at the moment, and it's just one of those things that I'm going to treasure so much when I'm growing up. I'm going to be telling my kids all about it, not because of the match, because of the amount of time that I got to spend with my dad, live the same emotions with him when you're watching these matches, and the fact that we could, relay this to my mom as well, who isn't into football much herself, but you can tell that she is quite, she gets happy, when Villa win, of course, and that is just so heartwarming to see as well. So yeah, guys, this was a bit of a long one, of course. Thank you guys for listening, and have an incredible week. Keep working hard. As I say, this is a bit more of a light-hearted one. We'll go super deep again next week, why not? But yeah, have a lovely week and take care.